the Ghoul finds out that the NCR ain't what it used to be, and all he sees there is Uncle Rico, and another soldier is left in the area. I'm saying
that
Uncle
was Rico, right?
I thought, yeah.
Rico.
I'll throw a football over the mountains.
Welcome to Cinema So Far, the podcast where good friends talk about great cinema. I'm your host, James, and today we are joined by our co-host, Sydney.
I'm the floor manager here, so I guess we all got a lot going on.
We have Paul.
Y'all looking dusty as hell.
We got Alex.
Hell Kaiser.
And we have Travis.
Howdy, partner.
And today we are talking about Fallout Season 2, Episode 3, titled The Profligate. And this episode was directed by Liz Friedlander. The writers of this episode were Chaz Hawkins and Chris Brady Denton. And this is a very cool episode we have today. We've moved past a little bit of the setup and have gotten into more of the meat of this Fallout sandwich, you would say. It's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. Whenever it comes to my rating of these episodes, I rated on how much did I laugh, how many questions were answered, as far as the mysteries go. And I will also admit I'm partial to, what was the world building involved. And I feel like we got a dose of all of those in this episode. I loved it. What did you guys think?
It was filled with action. I thought there was some really good moments that I can't wait to talk about. And yes, it's heating up now. The foundation has been laid. We're on track.
I felt like there's still so many different story arcs going on. They only focused on a few this time, but, I still am waiting for them to kind of intertwine them more. So that's what I'm waiting for big time. But you see more of the factions coming along. So,
yeah, I think it was a really well-written episode. There's some good drama in there. There's a lot of good comedy in this one. And then, to your point, James, with the world building, I'm really kind of giddy and excited to see some of the New Vegas stuff starting to take shape.
Yeah, you've been waiting for some of this.
Yeah, it's a pretty great episode. I really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to cover some of the fun stuff that we saw in there.
So let's get into it. In this episode, as we normally do, we are going to start out with our overall thoughts of the episode, which we kind of just did, but I'm sure we'll get into some of those also as we move on. We will do a recap and talk about the full episode scene by scene and maybe even get into some of our top moments for the episode. These are, what our favorite moment was from episode 3 and who was the MVP of the episode. Who, either the character or the actor, who did we feel was really just firing on all cylinders for this episode and put on a great performance. But before that, let's go ahead and start with the name game. And the name of the episode usually has some multiple meanings. I'm not so sure about this one. This one is called The Profligate. And what did you guys think this was alluding to?
I had to look it up because I didn't know what it meant. So it means a recklessly wasteful of resources. And it made me think when Lucy was wasting the resources on the Tunic, who just immediately got her throat slit, which we'll see later. The Ghoul took the meds without helping, and just in the wasteland in general, there's just a lot of reckless use of the resources. That's what I got from it.
I was wondering if it had something to do with their view of the vault dwellers and maybe their use of the resources and protection of the resources. Although, from their perspective, they were using them to stay alive, drink water, all that stuff. Maybe that was viewed as extravagant use by the Tunics.
That is that's one of the definitions that Sid had just said, but there's also the noun, which is a licentious, dissolute person lacking of moral structure and boundaries.
I got to look up both of those words.
So
My head.
basically somebody who doesn't care how they treat other people, or just they're kind of selfish in that sense. And so for me, like everything Sid said was great. I think on that point, there is a sense of wastefulness that we see, for instance, when she mentioned the ghoul taking the medicine. If you noticed in that scene, he also drops one and just doesn't care to come pick it back up.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Kind of aggravated me, especially because I'm like, you need that shit to live, and you're going to leave a single one behind. But also, what we notice is it's what the Legion calls people who are outside of the Legion, which to me, it's kind of like an insult. They're saying you are basically you're a worthless, wasteful, like you're a waste of a human being. But ironically, it's kind of like them saying that to somebody, is ironic. But yeah, I had to Google it myself as well. So this one was a little bit harder to kind of place those kind of connections.
Double entendre.
Yeah, I felt the same way, Alex. And whenever I looked it up, I was just thinking, okay, this must be what they call everyone else. It's them versus everyone else. Everyone else is profligate, and that's just because they feel like they're not using the resources of the land the way that the Legion would.
And I didn't think it just dawned on me right now that we probably, one of us, me or somebody, should have Googled if that was a term that the Roman Empire used in real life and what they meant by it. So that might be something we look up later.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, who knows? But I just thought it was interesting because Lucy was called that in the last episode. She was referred to that by the woman that was wearing the tunic earlier. But I just thought it was interesting that was the title for this episode. But yeah, I think everything with the Legion is pretty fascinating, and again, just the world building with these factions is just choice, just so well done. I want to know more instantly after watching this episode. It makes me want to do research, but I don't want to spoil myself, so I kind of have to show some restraint there.
Well, I was looking that up here and I didn't, but it doesn't totally make sense to me still at this point. No, but I mean, in 1520s, overthrown, rooted, defeated, conquered, now obsolete in this sense, but Latin profligatus, destroyed, ruined, corrupt, abandoned, dissolute.
There's some lore for you.
And you had Xander, who, was like, oh, let's just kill all these kids. And
yeah, that's true.
Is he viewed as, a profligator or however the term is used?
I think it could be applied to him for sure.
To that point, especially because, he was kind of just like gung-ho about, maybe not gung-ho is the word, but hey, let's go take the helicopter. He's like, we need a pilot. And he's like, no, screw it. Let's have all the fun ourselves. He's kind of, his characteristics throughout that film were kind of reckless and maybe not necessarily wasteful, but kind of rejecting the order of things.
Definitely reckless, right? I feel like that's like a spot on adjective for him. Okay. Well, anything else on the name?
I think it applied to pretty much every group, because I think they're looking at everyone else. Like, again, we keep getting back to the same thing of everybody wants the same thing, but we disagree on how to get there. And so, I think that had something to do with it also, as they all view each other kind of similarly.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because that is something that we'll find out later that Robert House had said, talking about we're all trying to have different solutions for the same problem. And so you would do the whole point the finger type deal. But also I think Lucy, right, that was a title that was actually given to her. So that's one thing, but also just kind of how she has reacted recklessly to the ghoul and just kind of not heeding any of his advice or his warnings, and being kind of profligate, being wasteful and reckless with the golden rule in and of itself, right? Like there's no border to it,
And it's funny you mentioned that too, Alex and Paul, because that's exactly what I was thinking as I was watching this episode. I was really thinking about that quote from Maximus where he said that we all, everyone wants to save the world, but just disagrees on how to do it. And man, it was obvious in this episode, with all these factions. And just another side note, we did get the title cards of these different groups, right? Like we were wondering, is that something that's going to carry out in every episode? And I think there was 3 in this one.
There was the NCR,
the Legion,
and I don't remember what the other one.
Maybe it was just 2. I could have swore there was 3.
The New California Republic, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting that there are so many, as more factions and groups get introduced, those title cards are probably even more necessary just to keep everything kind of straight as to who's who.
And the title cards also are, that's another big thing that I noticed was something that they adopted from The Good, the Bad, the Ugly as well. It was very reminiscent of that because it's in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it goes, the title cards are the good, the bad, and the ugly, and throughout the film it represents a particular character, and that's kind of what they're doing with the factions.
Yeah, great point.
Heavily influenced the series.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our recap. We open on a child labor powered bottle cap harvesting factory managed by none other than Thaddeus.
Ghoul Thaddeus.
Looking a
Now
little different.
he's more ghoulish now, and he has dozens of kids pulling off the tops of these soda drinks. I had here in my notes that they were Nuka-Cola drinks, but they're not actually.
Was it Sunset Sarsaparilla?
That's exactly what they are. Sunset Sarsaparilla. And yeah, this scene, I could not stop laughing. Just from him not caring about these kids at all, it seems like. Just all he cares about is them making him some money. But yeah, it's hilarious.
So happy Thaddeus is back with the ghoul child labor. Not all kids live this long.
Yeah.
He's like chant to them. Really a way to lift their spirits. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of tips if I ever want to start a child labor camp. Like, you just got to stay positive. Just keep them involved.
Child labor laws are ruining this country. No, just kidding. That's from Parks and Rec or something. Let us know in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me what my reference is.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just comedy this whole time with Johnny Pemberton as Thaddeus. And
You feel that was actually like a cola factory, or what? That sarsaparilla, was it a factory or just
I don't know what it was, but they had a lot of those drinks there, so maybe it was the soda factory. I'm not sure.
I just kept thinking to myself how wasteful that they're taking the caps off. They didn't show you what they were doing with the drinks in them, but you would think that anything liquid would be a pretty priority in this world.
Well, we don't even get any water. We'll just drink the soda.
Yeah, I think that's what it was saying is like they're drinking it all because they showed like a 5-gallon
like a tea pitcher
container with the soda in it. So that's all they're drinking. Like they don't get any water. It's only that soda, which apparently is kind of like root beer.
Well, it's a sarsaparilla soda. I mean, it's maybe it could be akin to root beer, but I mean, you've had a sarsaparilla soda before, right?
No, I don't.
Root beer is made from sarsaparilla, correct?
Oh yeah, maybe, I'm not sure, but sarsaparilla root probably. But yeah, maybe, I guess it is. But there's actually like sarsaparilla sodas, and you can find them at like vintage candy shops or at Cracker Barrel and stuff like that.
Yeah. All I know is if you have a problem taking off the top with gloves, just take those gloves off and use your hands. Use that meat on your hands to open it up.
May hurt a little.
You'll have nice what do you say, like nice callous man hands in no time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, y'all just made me think too. We were talking about the profligate title, right? Well, that's the profligate thing right there, being recklessly extravagant and wasteful in the use of resources. So that's one of them right there, right? With the sodas.
I just wondered how he found all these kids. Like what happened that led him to be the floor manager here?
It was so random that they go in there and there's Thaddeus running the place.
I think one of my deep dives right here for us is that song that we open with is It's Chain Gang by Sam Cooke.
Sam
from
Cooke.
July 26, 1960. The cool part of that is that was a single that came out, and it was the B-side on that was Fall in Love. I Fall in Love Every Day. I got a little Easter egg. I don't know if it's tied to it, or we'll see. Maybe Alex might know, and I want to save the rest of that for later on when we are introduced to another character. But that's by RCA Victor, and that out of New York City.
RCA Cola. Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, there's different things. So
I'm reaching now.
yeah, you are.
It's also it's RC Cola.
Real
Yeah.
RC Cola. Yeah.
RCA Cola.
Anything.
Just throw an A in there.
It doesn't have to do with the cola. It's about RCA, the company, and what I think it might tie to this coming something.
Yeah. But either way, that was a funny scene. And what was interesting is later you realize maybe he does care for these kids, but this scene only standalone didn't seem like it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wrote down was Thaddeus is looking rough. What the hell happened? Now he's running a child labor operation. Shouldn't be surprising after the way he treated dog meat. Bastard.
Yeah, he's got his own problems, but he's trying to make it work. He's just a businessman in the wasteland trying to make it happen.
Yeah, just
But
making the
next-
best out of being a mutant or a ghoul too. Just like how happy-go-lucky he is after he, got shot up with some shit that's turning him into a rotting corpse, living corpse.
He's got
Pre-Ghoul
roots.
is almost worse than real Ghoul without the nose. He looks messed up.
Kind of looks like Pennywise.
Some skin infection.
Yeah, he's not looking good.
Leprosy.
But he seems like he's having a good time.
They're all abominations.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the part where he, the little girl is like sitting off to the side, not working, and it's because one of the others said she looked like a ghoul, and he's like, "That's nothing wrong with that." And then he's like, "He's a ghoul over there. Gross." Like.
Busted.
Yeah. But later on, we'll see that he does care for them, at least to the point where he doesn't want to see them all
He
get
cares
shot.
about his labor. He doesn't care about them.
Yeah, you might be right, Travis. Okay, let me move on to the next scene. So we catch up with Lucy and the tunic-wearing woman as they're led into the Legion camp. And the group's leader, the Khazar, or Caesar, and the woman begs for her life before being killed for losing
Let's
her
redo that.
legionary.
Is it? I think it's Kaiser.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so...
Is that right, Alex?
No, that's right. I mean, it's just funny. You're talk. Yeah, because you find out later in that same scene, she says it's Kaiser because Kaiser's German, but you guys are Roman. So, but I was just laughing that you're correcting each other.
I wouldn't be correcting the person putting heads on sticks, okay? But that may not be a time to correct them.
But I think it shows how fearless Lucy is, like she...
Fearless or stupid?
And
Both,
she's
maybe?
a nice person and makes sure to tell them that.
Very nice. I do like how she's just blazing through the wasteland, just being totally herself, acting like just death is not a possibility. Just going, blazing through.
Yeah, she does not care. But I don't think she even realizes what she's in for. But I would hope that she would get some kind of idea as she's walking through this camp and seeing so many people being tortured. Like, it's just everywhere. But she's still, she's still going to be herself and still speak up when she feels like she needs to. Okay, so next we see that one of the members of the Legion is Macaulay Culkin himself. I can't remember what his name is in the show, but Lucy tries to bargain for her life. She gives some conflict resolution advice, and she educates the group on how to pronounce the word Caesar, but ends up getting herself crucified instead. So
That's
in this
gnarly.
scene, yeah, it was super gnarly. What did you guys think about this scene as Lucy has, basically got herself in this situation?
I mean, again, just what did you expect was going to happen? And I kind of called it with the Ghoul coming to save her ass. I'm just
You
saying.
did. Yeah, you did call that.
So I know we're getting ahead, but we'll touch on that later. So.
Well, it's definitely interesting to see Macaulay Culkin in this role. I mean, it says here that it's his, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Lacerda Legate. Is it? I don't know if that's how you say his name in the episode, but it's just weird to see him because I haven't seen him anything for so long. And then we had Christmas we just went through, and it's like he's from Home Alone. It's like that's all I know him as, right? So I think I just need to see him acting more, and I'll get beyond that. For me, he's still in that role, and I got to just see past that, right? Because I was like,
we'll definitely see more of him. Yeah, we'll see more of him because he was in the trailer doing some other stuff. So I'm sure we'll get there.
Well, first I'm going to say, Travis, I think that's the point. right? Because we're seeing Kevin McAllister in this role that it's supposed to be like not necessarily jarring, but ridiculous, right? It's
Okay.
absurd.
Okay.
But also, man, Lucy pissed me off. Like I'm so aggravated with her because since the last episode, like I already knew I'm just like this golden rule shit. Like you got to have some sort of like limit to it. You know what I mean? Like you can't go sunshine and rainbows. And she's been in the wasteland long enough to understand that people do not operate like they do in the vault, right? And then also the way that things were operated in the vault were never exactly what they seemed, right? So, you know, it's one thing that she has that like, you know, happy-go-lucky attitude, but you know, in the first season, right, as we're developing, but at this point, like you're seeing people get like their severed heads put on stakes and people getting their teeth pulled out and lashed and all this crap. And then on top of that, they said, you know, you're a prima noctis, which I don't know if you guys know what that is, but in medieval or post-medieval literature, I think it's more of a myth. I don't think this actually happened so much in the medieval times, but it's where a feudal lord or a king has rights to your wife on the wedding night. So he could be the one that takes her virginity. So, you know, even after all the stuff that they're trying to say, you know, it's just,
And
I hope she learned her lesson.
She made sure to tell him she was not a virgin, even with all the cousin stuff she's done.
Yeah.
So they can't really use her for that purpose.
2 pages in her resume.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because the debate continues because like as I wrote down, she makes a reference to cousin stuff with the implication that it wasn't actually sex. So maybe cousin stuff wasn't actual sex.
Wait, no, I thought that's what she was saying. Is it actually was like it definitely was.
She said,
sex.
"I'm not a virgin," not to mention the cousin stuff.
Right.
So she separated the virginity from the cousin stuff. So you know,
I think it was everything but home base.
I know it.
and then one more thing I want to add on that because obviously we're kind of hinting on that in the last episode is this is what I was talking about when I said, you know, like she really should have listened to the Ghoul because in the game, the main antagonist in New Vegas is the Caesar Legion, and they're not good people at all. They're all about SA and torture and conquering and stuff, and in a sense, probably to me, make the real Roman Empire look maybe not as bad. So,
oh, go ahead, Travis.
Well, and for the writers to call that out, like when she was like, that's from the Middle Ages. That's like, that's not even Roman. She did that twice. Like, she's like, y'all are just adopting these things.
Yeah. She was really calling them out on like a lot of their incorrect view of history and even themselves. But what I thought was really interesting for Lucy is, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, or if you feel differently, but I just feel like up until this point, this is the worst that she's encountered, right? Like she's gone through some stuff, but now she's really, I think, getting a taste of what the wasteland is like. And I believe she's going to be changed from this. And we'll see what happens to her a little bit later, but I believe this is going to be a turning point for her.
It's the first time I really saw her losing hope. Like, this could be it for me. That's all I was going to say.
I agree. I think she needs a little sobriety in that point, right? She needs to sober up a little bit. And it's exactly what Sydney said earlier. I put this in my note as well. It's like, you went through all that shit and you betrayed the Ghoul just to go to a place where they're going to put you on a cross and also slit the lady's throat that you were trying to save in the first place. So I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you, like this has been one of the most frustrating episodes. And if she's going to be like this for the rest of the season, I'm probably going to rage quit, to be honest with you.
That's my point. I don't think she is going to be.
I hope this is a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
She wasn't even considering when she left him there that something could happen to her and that she wouldn't be able to get back to him. I thought that was
She still just didn't have any kind of clue. And I think that's still just that she was stuck in that, you know, just in that lifestyle so long, just believing that that's how the world is. It's very hard to get beyond it and see anything past, okay, well, I'm just going to take her and, because they've been pretty far, they've traveled pretty far, but she hasn't experienced all these things, like James said. It's like So she couldn't just take her somewhere and just save her. She didn't know what's ahead. She just thinks she does.
So
Yeah.
the endearing part of it is turning more into frustration for me.
Yeah, agreed.
And I'm not like frustrated as much as just I feel like this is what she needed to truly, like, I guess, for it to click for her that this is not the vaults. The worst thing that people can do isn't just forgetting to say thank you. It's torture, it's death, it's, decapitation, it's all of these things, and she gets it now, I think.
And I think too it's a contrast point too, because, well, as we'll see further on, I don't want to give too much away, but the fact that, like, we would have expected the Ghoul, from what we know about him from last season, to potentially might not even want to go and have anything to do with her. You know what I mean? And you're like, okay, well, let her learn her lesson. I don't care, where she is. But it shows that he has kind of changed, and while she's kind of not, or at least not to this point. And then also, classic Lucy, she's hanging from the cross. Oh, geez. Like, there's so many other things you could say, but yeah, oh, geez.
Well, and I think there was a couple of other things there. So, like, I think that when she left the Ghoul and said, hey, I'm going to come back for you, but, this is what you get. I think that she didn't think it could get worse than the Ghoul. Like, she couldn't imagine, like, she thought that was the worst it could get. And then she goes off and finds out that it actually could get worse. But remember last episode, I asked you guys, why did the Ghoul follow her into that building? Why is he sticking with her? And I think they answered that in this episode. Did you guys catch that?
He said he needs her.
He said he needed her. But do you think
And
you know
that's the
why?
only reason he went back to save her. Well, I assume it's to get to Hank or something down the line as it relates to her finding her father.
All right. Any other guesses?
Well, if her finding her father, yeah, that could potentially lead to his family. That's what I would think he's hoping for.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's probably my best guess. There's probably something that I'm missing, and I'm sure you'll enlighten us.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's true. I'm just guessing as well. But what do you think, Sydney? Any guesses there?
I do think he will need her down the line, like he said, but also I do think he has a soft spot for her too.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
reluctantly. Yeah, I agree. That's what I was going to say too. I think he reluctantly he's because we're seeing him, through his, even from the last season and in this last couple of episodes, or this episode specifically, having these kind of flashbacks that seem to be softening him up as he's trying to kind of reevaluate and remember his purpose in the first place, And I think that there is, like I had mentioned, the kind of the Ellie and Joel kind of situation from The Last of Us. It's getting to the point where he's kind of, she's growing on him, and maybe it is that optimism too. Even though the optimism is annoying and gets her in trouble, maybe there is something about that he finds endearing, even though if he doesn't want to admit it.
Well, I was kind of picking up on two clues. Go ahead, Sydney.
No, just maybe that it makes him feel a little more human after feeling like a monster for so long, and connecting with someone for an extended period of time, not just passing by.
I didn't feel like he had any connection to Lucy other than he needs her for whatever he needs her for. I don't think I saw the Ghoul as being the Ghoul. He even said to the dog later, that he hasn't had someone worth talking to in a long time. So, the dog meat was filling that role for him. And you can tell that he has a soft spot in his heart for that dog. But to me, he's basically only going to save Lucy for his own purposes because he needs her for something.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I heard that and I picked up the opposite, which was I thought he was kind of saying that he did enjoy actually talking to Lucy, that she was someone that he liked to talk to. And now that she's gone, all he has left is dog meat. But maybe, I mean, it could go either way on that. But I also think in the last episode, we got a clue, which is Lucy opened the vault with her Pit-Boy. And And that's how he was able to get into the vault and get lowered down there. And so maybe that's what he's thinking is going to be the way for him to get into these other vaults to see if he can find his family there.
However, I do think that that is a good point, but couldn't he just kill her and take the Pit Boy?
Possibly, yeah. I don't know if it was like it's for each person. There's some sort of
I don't think so.
Unique.
Because
yeah. I don't know.
If I'm not mistaken, in the Fallout games, I think people can grab other people's Pit Boys and use them.
Okay, well then my theory totally falls apart then.
No, I don't think it does. I think it's two-sided, right? And I could be wrong. I might be wrong. I think because I can't remember if you start with the Pit Boy or if you get one later in all of the games. But regardless, even if I am right, or that you can take the Pit Boy, it still could be that. Plus, he has respect for her and doesn't want her to die. Could be both. You know what I mean?
When he's describing to her about the Civil War that's happening, I just thought that whole scenario was hilarious. They're like encampments are like just apart by a mound, and it's just like they're just like, oh, we're just having differences.
They're mirror images of each other.
Okay,
they're mirror images of each other with one, two guys sitting there claiming the throne.
Well,
and you guys caught like why they're like what they're fighting over?
Yeah, that's what I was bringing to is the fact that because their previous leader had died and he put the name of the next one in his divine pocket. And I thought it was just hilarious. It's a piece of paper hanging out and it's like, hasn't disintegrated yet or like, and I tried to pause and I thought he said, I am something. I couldn't figure out what it said.
You mentioned that there's the two different, legions that are fighting each other. That is somewhat of a historical reference, but also it's like a deep lore reference. So what we're seeing now is like Fallout New Vegas lore, most of it, right? It's coming off of the game Fallout New Vegas. And in that game, Caesar was, or the Legion was founded by Edward Salo, who was the first Caesar. And he was the one that united the tribes of Arizona and Colorado and then built the new Romanesque empire. And then, like I said, he was the primary protagonist of Fallout New Vegas. There was another game that was in development before Fallout New Vegas that did not see the light of day, and it was called Fallout Van Buren. And in that one, it was in development by I can't remember their name. I think it's Interplay, which was the developer before they kind of fell apart, and then Bethesda took them over. So they trash canned Van Buren, but took some of the elements of Van Buren and put it into Fallout 4. For instance, there was a Caesar character, there was an Arizona tribe and a Legion, and a lot of similar ideas, but there was a completely different like backstory and lore. But a lot of the early Fallout like guidebooks and developmental kind of documents treated it as canon. So it kind of exists, like there's two different legions that kind of exist. And then for like the nerds of the game, there's kind of a debate of like, is this legion valid or is it not?
Okay.
And so anyway, they kind of did that, and which I thought was really interesting that they put that in. Like it's not has nothing to do with the game specifically, but like the game development and real world, it's very meta, that they decided to do that. And I thought that was really cool. But then also the historical thing is kind of like, if you know anything about the Roman Empire, there was a lot of different people who claimed to be Caesar, and there was a lot of different people claiming the throne and fighting back and forth. So two-tiered.
Meanwhile, we see that the Ghoul is still alive, but to recover, he needs to cut out a chunk of his leg with the venom in it. Yeah, this was gnarly.
Intense.
Yeah. And did you guys know what he was doing at that point? Could you kind of tell, or did it for me, it kind of clicked towards the very end of it. I'm just like, wait, what's happening? Why is he, what's the goal here? Because I just assumed that the venom was kind of like flowing through his leg, flowing through his body already, but he cut it out pretty
but as
surgically.
a ghoul, does he have blood flow? So I just thought he was cutting the poison out, but I didn't know for sure, and I just know
for
that
a second I almost
expected
him to eat the flesh.
I saw that too.
Same.
It kind of looked like it for a second.
It looked like Dogmeat wanted to eat that flesh.
He was like, and he threw it over his head. Dogmeat was definitely bummed, like, man.
I got a little insight on that. My assumption is that because we see him heal, right? He's got regenerative properties because he is radiated. Then Lucy had also said in the last episode, like, you don't need this as much as she does. You'll be fine, right? And then I don't think that there's a specific like poison mechanic. If I remember correctly, I think you kind of get poisoned by toxic enemies like rad scorpions and such. But the way that they seem to have done it in the episode is because you saw this in the last one too. When they look at the tunic girl's back, it's just like there's a spot rotting out of her back, and then the same with the guy that he ended up slitting his throat. So I'm assuming, like he's got a specifically infected, rotting piece of his flesh. And then he kind of explains that because the dialogue is like, what is a boat if you take a plank out of it? It's still a boat. It's just got a hole in it. But then there's a wider kind of conversation he's having with himself about himself rotting away and becoming it's like it becomes eventually, but if you take too many pieces out, then it's no longer a boat. It's unrecognizable. So yeah,
Just
I think
a pile of wood.
Yeah, just a pile of wood. And so I think that that's what was happening. And I got it right off the bat, because you see pus and just rot, and then he cuts around it and pulls it out. So I think he was just cutting that specific piece. So the way that it would work is that you're rotting from where they sting you, and maybe it's not blood-borne, but like more flesh-borne of a kind of a toxic, was pathogen the term, or whatever, venom.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, so I've never heard that part of that boat. I don't know what you would call it. It's a
Analogy.
It's not a saying, but yeah, an analogy.
It's a euphemism.
Yeah, what I
Sexism.
heard that was a little bit different is, if you have a boat and you replace a plank, it's still the same boat. But if you replace 2 planks, 3 planks, 20, 100, if you replace every piece, is it still the same boat? Or is it different? Or is it something else? But this was like a different way of putting it than I've heard before.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Okay, yeah. So because instead of saying replacing, he's saying if you take it out, it's just a pile of wood.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's just a little spin on that analogy that I never really heard before, but it's a popular one, and I think really appropriate. You never heard that before?
No, first you just educated me. I didn't know. I assumed that there was something there, but I feel like he's also comes up with just some like out of pocket shit that I've never heard before a lot. So I just couldn't assume. But that's interesting to me that is a saying. So I would have had no reference for until you mentioned it.
I wasn't sure.
That is interesting. Philosophical question. Do you think it's the same boat if it's been completely replaced?
Substantially, it's not. It can't be the same boat substantially, but there could be an argument for structurally or, maybe even spiritually, is it the same boat, right? Because there's kind of a religious element to sailing, like, sailing and pirates and such. So depending on where that and also it's an analogy, right? You could be talking about a human body, right? You can say that's like, if you read or watch cyberpunk stuff, they're constantly replacing their limbs and their body parts with mechanical stuff. And at what point do you become a full cyborg and no longer a human? I think that's kind of what it's touching on. Or, plastic surgery could be another, like how much of you is still left there. And from a human perspective, I mean, you still got your guts, you still got your heart, you still kind of are who you are. You got your same brain, but how much has your physical changes also changed who you are on the inside?
So was the brain in a jar still Bud Askins?
I mean, yeah, he was, because it was his intellect and his memory. And again, going back to kind of sci-fi, cyberpunk stuff, it's like that's always one of the major questions is like, if my consciousness in a cyborg, is it still me? And I think in Bud Askin's case, it is, because it's literally his brain matter.
But I think it's kind of like a Rorschach test in that everyone's answer is probably going to be a little different. It all depends on how you look at the world. But yeah, that was a cool part, and I feel like it was really cool to get some screen time for Dog Meat. I feel like we haven't really seen very much of him. So
she's such a good
chilling
girl.
There. Yeah,
I love her.
Her chilling there was nice to see. But we flash back from there to Cooper and Barb before the fallout. She's packing up some things to take to the vault, and she's crying while doing it. Cooper goes to an award ceremony with his friend Charlie Whiteknife, and we meet Diane Welch, a congresswoman for the District of Glendale. And we also learn that Charlie didn't know about Moldaver asking Cooper to kill Robert House. So whenever I first watched this scene and I heard Diane Welch's voice, I immediately recognized it, and she's been in a lot of cool things lately. But yeah, she just has one of those voices that's just very recognizable. But this was a really deep and cool scene. What did you guys think?
I'm gonna let y'all take it away.
Super funny how she was
Take
like,
it away.
the way she was talking, it was like, oh, and then where I don't know where the awards are, what they are. Like,
I dropped
you're
my
running
card.
for office?
Yeah. She seemed pretty incompetent.
I don't have the money to put behind, what is it? Getting your name out there. Dadgummit.
Yeah, she wasn't accepting money from corporations. So.
Corporation.
Yeah,
I was so excited to get back to the Ghoul and Lucy. I was a little like, come on, let's just get through this part.
I don't need any backstory.
I mean, I think what it was really telling us, I believe, what I was picking up from it was that these veterans, they've come back from war and they're not getting the best of the best. It is a very shoddy award ceremony. I mean, the award is a lighter.
That's foreshadowing.
It just,
that lighter is important.
It was.
And
but I was
everybody's
just
smoking.
thinking, this isn't like a well-lit banquet hall or anything. This looks like a very rundown, darkly lit, not a lot of money behind it kind of award ceremony, which to me was just kind of like a commentary on how veterans are treated.
I would completely agree. I think that whole episode, or not episode, that whole scene was rife with a kind of social commentary on how we treat veterans. Dirty old dusty VA halls that are falling apart.
That's what
The fact that this congresswoman seemed a little disinterested in the whole ordeal, and then of course her talking about the corporatist aspect of everything. Which I thought was kind of genuine of her, even though she seemed disinterested, to say, like, we need less corporations involved in Washington, which is something I think is very valid for today.
I didn't think she was disingenuous or anything. I just felt like she was less organized.
Well, I don't
that
mean
was part of the problem of where she's coming from is, she doesn't have the backing of the major corporations. She's got to do more on her own. She doesn't have, a group around her pushing her up, propping her up, giving her money to be advertising, all that type of stuff. So.
Well, yeah, I said, I didn't say, or if I did say, I didn't mean to say disenfranchised or I meant, I think I said disinterested. And I mean, like, it's not necessarily like, I think she feels like she could have better things going on right now than sending a, giving a reward at a veteran ceremony.
I don't know. It made me feel more with what Paul's saying there, is where she was like, she is being genuine and she is interested, but it's just like having to run your own campaign, get awards created. She can't get watches made for these guys and get
that's what I'm saying is, like, she's limited power, limited money. So she's probably thinking about, man, I should be doing a whole bunch of other stuff that I can't do right now because of it. But also interesting, we were talking about the lighter thing. So this here, if you see the letters inscribed on the back, it says RKS. So this is a lighter that was rewarded to my great grandpa by the VA.
Nice.
And he was a veteran of the Air Force and the Navy during World War II. So when I saw that, I was like, hey, I got one of those. So
amazing.
That's what that
Great
is.
appreciation for him.
And I think this was another scene where they talked about everybody trying to solve the same solution with many ways to achieve it. Messy.
Oh, that's
And
when we're
then
introduced to House. Yeah, when he brings that up. Yeah.
And I want to get to House, but if we could go back for a second, though, I wanted to say it was very interesting because we kind of just glossed over the conversation with Barb and Cooper. What I thought was I thought this was cool is, like, if you notice, she has a box that says Vault Tech Keepsakes. So it's an official Vault Tech, and it's like, okay, like, you're going to live in our vault. Here's your official keepsake box, and you can't have nothing that doesn't fit in this box. you know,
I didn't see
which
that.
which kind of goes back to like that. I don't know. It's just corporate overreach and this, you know, manipulation and kind of control. We're seeing like the corporations kind of becoming what again what Cooper was fighting against in the war, right? Kind of this totalitarian thing, and then just the fact that she was crying while she was doing it, and I maybe wonder, was she second guessing what her decision was, or was she just, you know, going silently into the night and just dealing with it? And then Cooper had, you know, this knowing comment he made was, well, you might not need it, right? But he knows better than that, you know. And I thought that was like just a really cool part of that scene. So
Felt like he was trying to test her right there also.
I think a little bit, you know, I agree.
It's very Spy Game, right? Like he knew something that she didn't know, which is he knows that it was her decision to start to not end in peace and to actually go ahead and bomb the world. And she doesn't know that he knows. But then they're both just kind of playing along as we're getting closer and closer to this trip to Las Vegas. But she obviously can't hide how she's feeling, which is distraught. I mean, yeah, it's a tough situation.
Well, and you said that she doesn't know that he knows, which is very possible. But I think there's also I think she has a good idea that he does know, because she knew that somebody was transmitting when she was having that conversation. We saw that in that episode. And to me, it's like, you said Spy Game, but I think it's also very Mr. and Mrs. Smith in a way, you know, because they're both assassins and they kind of know of each other, but they can't really talk about it, right, without giving up the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so I'm gonna say I don't think that she knows, because I'm still not convinced of that. I think that she could suspect that someone knew, but I don't think she has any idea that Cooper is the person that was actually listening in.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I mean, is like, I don't know if I'm saying she could be suspecting Cooper, you know what I mean, but doesn't officially know, so she can't say it, you know, and then vice versa.
Yeah. But next, when Cooper goes to the bathroom, goes to the men's restroom, we see Robert House waiting for him there. And he accuses Charlie Whiteknife of being a pinko. This was a really interesting conversation, because I was not expecting him to be there. But let me ask you guys, does that, in your mind, as you're watching that scene, do you think he's on to the whole, you know, plot to kill him? Or is he just kind of keeping tabs on things?
I felt like he was keeping tabs on things.
I think he probably knows more than he's letting on.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think he has good intel, right? That, you know, maybe he doesn't know exactly what the plot is, but he has a suspicion that there is a plot. Also, this is the real Robert House, because I don't know if you noticed, but during the corporate conversation that Barb had with everybody else, that was Robert House there as well, right? So this is incognito Robert. And it's that same, and I love this about this character too, because when he was in the diner in the first episode, you know, they're like, who are you? And when they were talking about Robert House. So, and then they couldn't say like for certain, like, oh, that's Robert House. They thought he was just a supporter. So I think that's really cool how he's just like, you know, kind of like at a touching distance, and you know, of these people and you know, these moving pieces. But yeah, no, I think that, back to that general question though, I think that he has a bit of an idea, but I don't think he knows for sure.
I thought it was interesting that I couldn't tell if he was standing there as like one of the gentlemen that's usually in the restroom and gives you the soap and gives you the towel.
Yeah.
Like, was he portraying like that's why Cooper just didn't really see him there, and he was just kind of like started talking. And my other question was that the first time he saw House or not? That wasn't the first time, right? Am I slipping?
I think it was the first time.
So he didn't really know yet, like,
because he didn't know, because no one knows who Robert House actually is. They think that he's the guy that was on TV, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I was thinking that to myself, like, wait, I would think it was really weird if I walk into a bathroom and someone is just chilling there, not handing out, you know, paper
I feel
towels
weird
or
when I do that
cologne.
anyways, and
He's
that
just
guy's just
standing
there giving me soap.
Yeah.
I don't need your help.
Yeah, that would have been a red flag for me.
And here's some kind of so Robert House was influenced by Howard Hughes,
Yes.
who was famous for having different people stand in as him. And one thing that I noticed, we said that the guy that was on TV, is different from this Robert House, and he's also different from the one that was at the board meeting, the corporate meeting. So he's playing all sides. Like, he has a TV persona. The people at Vaultec and all the other corporations think that they know him as that guy, but he's sitting here and nobody's aware. I don't even think Barb knows what his real face looks like.
Interesting. I thought it was only the one stunt double, guy that was on TV and was in that room. But I mean, maybe you could be right. It could be two different people. But
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's like there was two different, like there's visually three different Robert Houses, or Robert. Yeah. And then we're seeing, I'm led to believe, just because he's so kind of incognito, the one that we're seeing in the diner and there with Cooper is the real one.
Well, let us know in the comments, anybody, if you think that there was actually a couple of, decoy Robert House, or if it was just the one. But yeah, I think that he rolled up on Cooper, and Cooper has no idea who he is because of the decoy that's been everywhere. Man, what a smart position that the real Robert House is putting himself in, by, like, no one really knows who he is, but he can do whatever he wants still. So yeah, that was a great scene.
Oh, last thing I want to say on that scene is, like, I was going to see if anybody else wanted to mention it, but, like, one of my favorite Cooper Howard lines, he's asked him, he's like, "You're not a veteran, are you?" And he's like, how'd you clock me, or how'd you guess, or whatever? And he goes, because a veteran knows not to talk politics when a man has his dick in his hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Another great line from Cooper. So back at the Brotherhood base in Area 51, we find Elder Quintus trying to convince the other Brotherhood chapters to unite under his banner. The elder from Yosemite refuses and leaves. Then Maximus suggests that he could just kill Xander from the Commonwealth, since that's what they do here. And of course, Quintus shoots this idea down because they don't have their alliance, and it would start a war that he knows that they could not win. So this, I think, was like another to kind of alienate Maximus from the Brotherhood. Before, Quintus was like very, fatherly with him, and hey, hey son, it's going to be you and me. We're going to do this thing together. But now he's just considering him the sword and doesn't want to hear anything he has to say.
He's in front of the council.
I thought he really chastised him and said, "I have no need for the thoughts of a sword. Leave." So, it's basically, hey, you and I are together at one point, but now he's kind of saying, hey, it's really me. I don't need you to wield and make decisions. I'll do that for you.
I think he has to stand his position in front of other clerics and other elders. Like, I think he has to, like, show that powerful, like, in charge. Maybe for me, that's what I thought.
But I thought it was interesting that Maximus said, hey, I can just go kill Xander and we can, move along. And, so again, it's kind of this thing with Maximus of, how do his intentions and what he's doing really play into who he really is? And I think they've kind of kept it fairly vague, in my opinion.
I agree.
To where you can look at him different ways and see that, you're not sure of exactly what his motives are, or if he's actually in doing things, doing the things that you think he is.
Yeah, and Travis called it in the last episode. I mean, whenever he was saying, "Well, why don't they just kill him? They're here," And so that was the same exact strategy that Maximus was suggesting. Hey, Xander's here. Let me just kill him. But he's not necessarily thinking about the repercussions of that. If Xander dies, what will the Commonwealth do? Well, Elder Quintus thinks that's going to start a war, and all of us are going to die.
Because they're not organized.
Well, they're not as powerful as the Commonwealth, I think. From what I can tell, and Alex, you probably know this, but from what I can tell, it's like Elder Quintus and that Brotherhood chapter there that's at Area 51, they are more of the religious side of the Brotherhood, whereas the Commonwealth might be more of the military side. Who don't really go in for all of the religious stuff. Just like the elder from Yosemite said, she wasn't really buying all that either.
And Xander comments once he goes outside, and that's when Xander starts talking to him, right? That's right after that part of the meeting. And then it just was interesting how he's pointing out how many clerics there are. Well, wow, you have a lot of clerics here that definitely don't get their hands dirty.
Yeah, they do nothing, he basically said. And, I had in my notes, I don't know if he said this directly, but Xander says this faction sucks.
He did, in a comedic way.
We're
It was
the last
hilarious.
bastion of hope, and your clerics do nothing. So there's definitely a fracture there between the Commonwealth and the rest of them.
Yeah, and I'll just say this real quick before you chime in, Alex, which is as part of the recap where Xander spots Maximus leaving the meeting, and with just some simple flattery, he gets Maximus to trust him. So all of that kind of happened all at once.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that because I literally put in my notes, Xander is speaking to Max's ego. But yeah, no, I think you're spot on. There are more, I don't want to say religious. It would be religious, but they're more fanatic groups of the Brotherhood throughout the games. And then you can also just see that, with Yosemite, she's like, I'm not into that religious stuff, right? And then a few of the other guys in the last episode had said some maybe contrary things where, I think that the Commonwealth, they are more military structured, and they do have a devotion to the kind of religion or the codex, but it's not as clerical as Xander had mentioned.
He talked about that the sword rules in the East, where he's from, Xander.
Yeah.
Whereas, they're following the clerics more in the West. And, he basically puts down the clerics saying, look, they're not in the trenches. They're not the ones who are doing the fighting. They don't have the same interests that we do. They're telling us to just go do things, but we're the ones actually, taking the toll on all this stuff.
Yeah, I think his direct quote was, "We are the ones that bleed." Like he said that the clerics talk and have speeches, and we're the ones that bleed. It's kind of like it's weird. I don't think it was okay. So let me go back for a second because this kind of goes into another thing I wanted to talk about. So Quintus, and I really like this because Quintus dropped some game lore when he talked about Roger Maxon, right? So, and you find this out in the games when you're reading, like you'll get like little like Easter eggs, or find little files that you can pick up and put in your Pip-Boy, and it tells you, it's like a literature on history and such. And they you find out the story of like the backbone, the beginning of the Knights or the Brotherhood. And it was because Roger Maxon was told to go to this military base. He was an army captain, and they were doing these experiments on people, and the experiments were for the FEV, which I mentioned before, which is the forced evolutionary virus. And then he was like, oh no, like this is cruel, this is un-American, I can't abide by this. So he does a rebellion against the US government, and then he moves to this bunker with all of his platoon and his men and their families, and then that's where the birth of the Brotherhoods comes from. So in the course of all that, he mentions that he's like, he chose God over government. So Roger Maxon is religious in a sense, right? He has this divine, what he feels is a divine purpose. So he wrote a codex, and the codex is, if you know what the Latin term, or is it Greek or Latin? I think it's Latin, but the Bible is a codex. It's kind of what gives you a history of things. So it's the history of the Brotherhood, and within that history, it's kind of also like a manifesto and a spiritual book. And so that's why it's a big important thing, or it should be a big important thing to them. But as you'll see, like some stick to the codex and some say, screw the codex, I'm in it for me.
Yeah, because Xander references it later when he's talking about killing the kids. But
and they reference it, but they reference it in the last episode too. I can't remember the exact term, but the brothers should not spill another brother's blood, right? That was specifically in the codex. And then somebody's like, well, the codex is up to interpretation. So it's kind of,
right,
kind of the Bible in that sense.
Okay. Yeah. Great background there. So back in the wasteland, the Ghoul discovers that there is a civil war between the legions. Realizing that he will still need Lucy down the line, he goes to find some reinforcement to help save her. But instead, he ends up finding Victor, the robot built by Robert House. And we learn the true motives of Robert House, which is to live forever.
It was definitely a plan for a lot of wealthy, rich people in charge.
Yeah. I have to admit, whenever I saw this robot, I was hoping that it was going to be another Snip Snip robot, but this is a
He's
different
back.
one. Yeah, this is a different one, and it seems like someone that was prominent in the games. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah, so and this is a question that Travis asked earlier. So he was talking about the RCA Victor recording, and unfortunately, it is not connected in that way. The Victor is a character from New Vegas, and you talked about Snip Snip. So Snip Snip is a Vault Tech. I can't remember the particular name, but it's a Vault Tech robot. This one is a Securitron, Robco Securitron, and it's a custom one. It's like it's been, I guess, hacked or whatever, because this one specifically was used by the NCR against Robco, because there's a war going on in the Mojave, and it's the Legion versus Robert House versus the NCR, and it's just kind of, they're all against each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Victor is he's a kind of a guiding spirit, if you like. He's kind of like in the games, he's kind of like Virgil in Dante's Inferno. Like he's there at the beginning of, very important levels and scenes, and he just kind of sticks around. So yeah, that's who Victor is.
For me, the connection, I was just in my little bit of research and was more of just a fan theory of my own, and not maybe one that I pulled, but just looking into what I was saying about that record being from RCA Victor. That was the company, right? That corporation was 1929's Radio Corporation of America, right? Well, they purchased the Victor Talking Machine Company. It was the largest manufacturer of phonographs at the time, and they made the model the Victrola. Just thought it was really unique. They had to be inspired by that, I swear. Whoever the developers had to be inspired by that. The
That makes
phonograph
sense.
is a talking machine.
Yeah, maybe it could be, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, that is, you're right, spot on though, as far as that goes. RCA, and you'll notice RCA is it's the famous logo of like the dog looking into the phonograph, and then 80s and 90s they turned it to him looking at a speaker, I believe. There's a famous commercial, I think from the late 80s or early 90s, where there's a guy like playing his music, and it's like
Sitting on the
the chair, and it's like his hair's blowing back, and there's a dog
Yeah.
there. That's a RCA.
I remember that commercial.
Well, I had to reference it. I am the radio and television guy here. I got
Yeah,
my degree
no.
in that stuff,
A little bit of info that I left out there that I meant to say was, so I said it was the Securitron, Robco Securitron. I think you'll find out as we get deeper into Vegas, what those are specifically were made for is for policing the streets. They're basically kind of like robot cops. So
They do
but
have
this
a
one was
We'll
customized.
probably see some of that as the season goes on, right? So back at Area 51, Xander takes Maximus out to go fly and uses extra power armor suit. Xander tells Maximus that the Commonwealth is doing well, but they really need the cold fusion relic. And just then, they discover power signatures and go down to investigate. So it really seems like as they are flying that Maximus is being charmed by this Xander guy. I think he's saying all the right things. And Maximus is really feeling, from what I could tell, he's not liking what he's encountering at the Brotherhood, the one that he's at with his elder. And I think this is just more of like Xander is kind of just like him, another sword. And so he's relating to him on that level and just soaking it all up, drinking the Kool-Aid.
But another sword
Xander's-
that has power. Again, we rule in the East. The sword rules in the East, and that's where he's coming from. So
Xander's so charming. I thought it was funny how they were like fist bumping, flying around, bonding, bonding
Yeah.
in the helicopter.
My
Hot
dog.
dog.
Yeah, there's
Now,
definitely some bromance going on there. I mean, look at Xander's hair. How can you resist? But yeah, I thought it's funny too, because he's talking about like, he's like, I know you, yeah, so I know you're pretty good, but you don't want this heat. I
Yeah,
thought that
you
was,
did.
I thought that was so funny.
Oh my God. I love the scene.
And then yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much the full scene there, though, right? I mean, there's
It
not
is.
much to
It
get
is.
into.
But I I didn't know where they were going. I was very pleasantly surprised when we found out where they were headed. But in the meantime, Cooper finds out that there are NCR Rangers in the hills nearby and goes to find them. After a rifle to the face, the Ghoul finds out that the NCR ain't what it used to be. And all he sees there is Uncle Rico, and another soldier is left in the area. I'm saying
That
Uncle
was Rico, right? I thought, yeah.
Rico.
I'll throw a football over the mountains.
Yeah. Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite is just sitting there, but I couldn't not think of that as I see that actor every time. But the Ghoul takes some of their, okay, I thought this was Radaway. I don't know what he has in those little vials that they end up giving him. I mean, they are similar, or they're the same as what he got at that market, but what are those called? Do we know, Alex, or are we not supposed to know yet?
No, we looked into that. We had a conversation about this a few episodes ago, and I think it was the Super Duper Mart episode. My best guess is it's some variation of like maybe homemade Radaway. There's another thing called Kims, which is like a drug that you could take that kind of maximizes your stats. So
but is that what is put into the inhaler that he keeps inhaling?
Well, the mechanics of Kims is that it is like an inhaler that you inhale. So I think it might be Kims. But I was also reading up on it, and they said that there's no like sure way to say which one it is. And then another theory I heard is that it could be like the FEV, the Forced Evolutionary Virus. Or no, sorry, I'm getting that mixed up. The theory was that what was given to Thaddeus might be the FEV, and that's why he's turning into a mutant. But yeah, I mean, I assume it's probably Kim's. I think it's what it looks like to me. If you're looking at the game, what is most familiar, what it looks most like in the game would be Kim's. But I think that it hasn't been confirmed.
What kept back to that scene in the last episode where he was like, they were walking away and he was using to heal his neck? Like,
that was a grenade.
Okay,
so he broke it up with the grenade, and the radiation was healing his neck scars because it's like everything's atomic in Fallout. So it makes sense. It's basically a small, tiny little atomic grenade.
But in this scene, when he grabs those and starts to walk off, I couldn't help but notice that he dropped one.
Right.
And I didn't think it was like part of the story or anything. I thought it just dropped and like the director didn't catch it, or whoever was looking to.
Or they just left it. Yeah.
Yeah. They just kind of left it there.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
But also, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about the Profligate, right? Like he was being wasteful there. So maybe that's why they left it in. But yeah, I was so like, to me, I'm like, dude, like you need that to live. Like you can't live. Like I wouldn't leave a single vial behind, if I were him.
But that's what we thought about when he was at the good market, the goodie. What is it? How do you say it again? The good
Super
market.
Duper Mart.
Super Duper Mart. Not the good market. This is good burger mixed with Super Duper Mart. But that's what he had a whole case, and he's just like I don't think he like doesn't need it to live. It's more like a drug to me. Like he just like takes and then whatever, he just drops some. Whatever.
Well, it's a drug that's keeping him from. It's keeping him lucid. It's stopping him from becoming a full on.
He doesn't try to get every drop or every vial and like.
Well, in that one, in the Super Duper Mart, he just had so many that I thought he was just like, oh, I'm gonna have a party here. Then I'll still have some for later. But yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Another thing I was going to say, so the person who shot at him with the rifle in the distance, she said, I'm Captain Rodriguez. Captain Rodriguez is also a character in the video game, but what is interesting is the Captain Rodriguez in the video game is a man. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that's just a reference or if that's just supposed to be like Captain Rodriguez, but in this universe, she's a female.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe we'll find out. But I couldn't forget about that part. And yeah, maybe he's a profligate as well, just for wasting those little vials. But then we see where Maximus and Xander land. And we also see the perimeter defense robot that Thaddeus mentioned earlier. After having a great time battling that robot, Xander and Maximus discover the factory of child workers. So what did you guys think about this scene where they're basically just fighting this robot, and I believe that I think Maximus ends up like pulling out the cold fusion core out of it. But were you guys into this scene? Did you think it was good, bad? Were you ready to get to the next part?
I don't think it was absolutely necessary, but it was fun.
It was funny.
I thought, because we were already talking about the bromance and the camaraderie, it's 10 times more funnier when it's coming through their deep bellowing voices. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, bro. Hell yeah, bro. Like,
This is how we get introduced
just
to the
makes 'em-
hammer, though.
It makes them
Yeah.
sound so stupid, like yeah, bro, like just a bunch of bros hanging out.
You got to check this out.
Yeah, what is that? What was that hammer called?
That's
Do you
like
know the name of it?
Force impact
I
hammer.
think it's called a super sledge. I'm looking real quick. Yeah, super sledge. Sorry, I had to think myself. It is, and that is in the game. That's one of those. But yeah, it's just basically just like a sledgehammer, as you can see, with a jet engine on the back of it. So it's like super torquey, and yeah, you turn people into mincemeat with that in the video game. It's pretty fun.
He says, "Oh, you want to
So
get a
good.
shot at him?" And then that's when you said, like, he thought he. To me, I don't think he pulled the core. He punched it in the face, and it just shut it down.
Well, he punched it in the face,
But the core was in there.
but he
came
went
back with the
through
core.
it, and he ended up pulling the core out from
I
inside.
didn't see that.
Yeah, he had a
Okay.
core in his hand for sure. You can see it's the yellow and black.
I don't know how I missed
Yeah,
that.
but that
I'm
was
just blind,
that was
man.
a cool fight scene. Oh, what's that?
I don't know how I missed that.
But it was a cool fight scene, and I think we see even more how Maximus and Xander are bonding, right? They are kind of the same person on these two different sides of the Brotherhood, but they're just having a good time, because they're, like you said,
Making
they're
the
broing
best of
out.
it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so then back at the Legion camp, we see Lucy starting to lose her strength on her torture stake. The Ghoul comes in to give the Legion a hot tip on where to find the NCR in exchange for Lucy. And man, Sydney, you called it. I
Called it.
wasn't even thinking that he was going to go back there, but he sure did. And he went to go get Lucy.
Just strolling up in there like he owns the place and cut her down like her guardian angel, saving her.
And I think prior to that, he was talking to the dog, and he said, "I like her. I don't like her, but we'll need her down the line."
So I did want to go back a little bit because we kind of glossed over this, but he didn't go just straight there, right? I mean, the reason why he was searching out the NCR and he went to go see Victor in the first place was because he wanted backup to be able to go take the camp, which to me is like the Legion camp, which to me is like shows some kind of gives him some quality, some courage. I think there's another word I was trying to look for, but he, the fact that he couldn't find backup and he still went in there with a different plan, which we'll find out here in a second. But
Yeah, he went there for backup and only found that one soldier and Uncle Rico.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and then and I thought, and then also he did a little misdirection with the Legion, right? Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So he walks in and he tells the Legion basically, he's like, "Hey, I could tell you where the rest of the NCR people are, right?" And then for a second, you're thinking like, this is the Ghoul. He might just say like, weighing pros and cons, like, maybe these two people's lives are worth Lucy's, and I'm going to, I'll betray them for that. So there's a little bit of tension there. But I think that scene, and I'll let you guys get into it, but I think that scene was really great as it was kind of flashing back, to Cooper and then to the Ghoul and to Cooper and him rescuing Lucy at the same time and kind of giving a little bit of a dialogue and a little bit of reason to kind of go back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, does he really care about Lucy? Does he have principles? Does he have his own golden rule? Like as we talked about previously. And I think it lends a little credence to maybe he does in that scene.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the editing was great here because they cut back and forth, and what they cut back and forth to, yes, they had Lucy here, but we also flash back to the award ceremony where Charlie Whiteknife is telling this heartfelt story about when him and Howard Cooper, or Cooper Howard, were in the war, and Cooper saved his life, right?
Or he
saved Cooper's life, yeah. And it's almost as if he was speaking to Cooper directly when he was up on that stage, trying to convince him to proceed with his mission of killing
100%.
Robert House. And they were just cutting back and forth between that and then, Lucy.
Yeah, 100%, because he was making direct eye contact with him. And, and then he said an interesting thing because he gets the lighter, but then he gives Cooper the lighter. And he says, they gave me this reward for saving you, but not saving you, not killing the two or three
Three.
people the three
Yeah.
people that I had to kill to save you, you know. And that was obviously like, sometimes you gotta, you know, break some eggs to make some omelets, you know what I mean? And I think that was him directly saying to him, like, yeah, go kill Robert House so, you know, everyone else can prosper.
Just a very well written scene. You know, it was really well done, and you can see that Cooper is starting to think about this a little bit differently. Like, you know, when we first saw him last season, he didn't even want to kill someone for, you know, in the movie as he was acting. He wanted, you know, to arrest people instead of killing them. But now he has to do it in real life. And man, what a crazy situation that must be to find yourself in. Like you don't even want to do this on any kind of level, but now you have to because it could be the right thing to do. That's
Well,
rough.
it's a moral quandary too, because I think he was a Marine. He was done with killing, and he knows that once you start killing, you don't really stop killing, right? It's one after the other, you know. And I think this is that segue, or not the segue, but that kind of transition moment, that threshold that we're getting to, where we're seeing how Cooper becomes to be able to operate as he does as the Ghoul, and you know, just. It seems to me like he's probably just been killing it. Like, I don't know if he kills Robert or not. We'll have to see. But the fact that, you know, that he's going down this path and he hasn't been able to get off of it for 200 years.
I think Robert's still alive. I think, or Mr. House. A lot of times they don't call him Robert. A lot of times they just call him
it's
Mr. House.
They always call him
gotta
Mr.
pay
House.
respects.
But I got used to calling him Robert House because I was to remember his corporation is Robco. So I'm
Right.
like Robert House. So anyway.
Well, then we see Lucy cut down and released. Once Lucy and the Ghoul get out of the camp, it explodes from the dynamite that he lit with that trusty lighter that he has, just as they were preparing to go to war with the NCR.
Or massacre the inside.
Yeah, they think it was caused by the other Legion and begin fighting with them instead. And you see this whole civil war just kind of kicked off by that explosion.
And he said something really important. He said something to the effect of like, maybe this was pointless. And Lucy goes, what? And he's like, well, I either did a really good thing or a really bad thing, or a stupid thing rather.
What do you think he meant by that? Does everyone have an idea of what he was saying there?
Could just go either way, really good or bad.
I think so too. I think he was, you know, and this kind of goes back to what I'm saying about, I think that we're starting to see that Cooper does have some heart beneath his rotting skin, because he mentions like, I did a good thing. And I think what he's perceiving is like destroying the Legion and not giving up the NCR, or a really stupid thing that this is going to make everything 10 times worse.
I had that same thought going away from it.
And the irony is
I
not
think
lost
that-
on me. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's kind of what a lot of the characters are going through, is their own personal morals versus what is wrong, what is right, what is the best for overall society. Again, how are we all have the same idea how to get there. We just don't know, or we know where we want to get. We just don't know how to get there. So I think everybody has is unsure or has to pick and choose when they are doing their certain, their morality checks.
And I was going to say, the irony is not lost on me that the two factions were a proverbial powder keg ready to blow. And then Cooper, you know, basically
Lit that powder keg on fire.
lit a literal powder keg that caused the proverbial powder keg to explode.
I kind of thought he was going to shoot it with the gun, but it's even funnier that he blew it up and then they just start fighting each other. Like, what? They don't even know what happened. They just start fighting each other.
That's kind of the genius part, right? Like they were so ready to fight each other. He knew that that's what would allow him to give up the NCR, but not really, you know, because now they, you know, the Legion have their other war to fight between each other. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I also thought it was interesting that when he was talking to the NCR, they were talking about fighting for Ghoul's rights in a way. Did
Mhm.
anyone catch
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So
They
it
were-
seems like they could just be the good guys.
They were saying, help us contact the missing battalions, clean up. We want clean water rights, schools. Please help before we're captured. And basically, Cooper says, "There's nobody coming for you. They're all dead. And the reason something's dead is it usually deserves to die."
Yeah, in the Fallout lore, if there ever really was someone that you could consider the good guys, because there is just a lot of moral gray with every faction and every individual person, I think you would consider NCR at least to be the good guys in a noble sense, because the NCR is shady sands, right? That was their whole purpose, was to rebuild civilization, and that's always their purpose, to the point that there's only 2 of them left. You know what I mean? And probably they were so noble, and that's kind of what got them killed, because they weren't willing to do the certain things that other people were
Yeah, and this is a theme throughout, because when you think back to it, Moldaver had to raid Vault 33 and kill some people in order to get what they needed to, restart society. Cooper is going to have to kill Robert House in order to prevent this horrible, outcome from happening. Like you said, Alex, like, just, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet, and it's just none of this is so black and white. It's all gray, right? And that's what makes it just really interesting, because it's kind of that trolley cart, the trolley dilemma over and over again. Like, what's the greater good, and what do people have to do that is against their morals in order to have a better outcome for everyone else?
Yeah, and then also when you become a Dudley Do-Right, kind of like Lucy or the NCR, you're always putting yourself in danger, right? And I think it's an unfortunate fact that they're portraying in this, and through these scenarios in the television show.
All right, and so our last scene, finally, we go back to the Ghoul ran soda factory, where Xander and Maximus find all the other kids hiding there. And now they're scared, but Xander assures them not to be afraid, even as he separates the ghouls from the others and intends to kill them. Thaddeus tries to save them, but just before Xander can kill all of them, Maximus smashes a hammer on Xander's head, basically ending that and ending the episode. So I didn't see that coming, guys. I don't know what was going to happen. I just felt like, I don't know. I didn't see it coming. And so that was a cool end to the episode.
I thought they were going to fight.
Another skull crusher.
The skull crusher.
It just goes to show, like, doing the right thing is probably going to be to the detriment of someone else. Like, I feel like it was the right thing to do. To kill Xander to save the kids is just the right thing to do. But Xander now has a hammer in his head.
That beautiful hair is messed up.
Smashed.
Covered in blood and sinew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, that's the way there's those old cliches, right? Like, no good deed goes unpunished. And, we're seeing that with Lucy as well, right? Or the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I, for one, did see it coming. I don't want to say I was 100% sure, but I did have an idea that I knew that Max wasn't going to let it happen. He wasn't going to let these kids get killed. And I figured that might have ended up with him potentially killing Xander, or at the very least, I think Sydney had mentioned, like, them having a brawl. So
I didn't think that Xander was going to get killed by Maximus. Maybe Maximus would prevent him from doing that, but I didn't think he was going to kill him. But mostly because Kumail Nanjiani, right? Like, I didn't think that they were going to bring him in just for a couple of episodes and that's it. So
yeah,
that's where I was kind of surprised.
That was kind of a throw off too.
I'm so bummed. I'm so bummed he died. I love that comedian actor. I just watched his stand up, which is really good on Hulu, by the way.
Ooh, nice.
Watch it.
Well, and he also, he just kind of had to die. I mean, if you really think about it, because he's like, that's where we talk about the codex, right? It was just like, the codex says that we have to kill all abominations, and, there are rules for a reason. If we don't have rules, then how are we, that, like, he's so rigid in his ideology, which is kind of ironic that he's talking about, the clerics are bad, but he's very liturgical and clerical in his own right. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that, like, they're kids. They're just tiny abominations. The fact that he can just dehumanize these children.
Well, I want to pose to you that if you think about it, because like Paul said, our view of Maximus is still a little vague. We don't always know what his freaking plan is, and he's always flexing and like flexible, right? Going maybe kind of directed one way or another. But this, I'm posed to you, is if you think about maybe he was taking this opportunity to go with him to potentially kill him, which was what he said in the first place to the elder cleric. Maybe he still just has this allegiance to the first brotherhood that he's in and was looking for an opportunity to kill him.
Maybe. I
Maybe.
mean, either way, whether it was intentional or not, almost doesn't matter because now he's officially started the war. Xander's not going back to the Commonwealth. And so he says that at the end. I think I've just started a war. And, I don't think anyone's going to try to hear him out like, hey, I didn't mean to do this, but he was going to kill some ghouls. And like, no one's going to care about that. So it's just a heightened situation now that Xander was killed. And even though Maximus was starting to like him, he felt like he had to do it.
Well, and I just think Maximus is the wild card of the group, and you can't always predict what he's going to do, but you can predict that he's going to get himself in trouble because it's literally the same thing as him letting Knight Titus die, and then now he's basically in the same situation.
Well, it's heightened a little bit, right? He let him die, but he actually killed Xander this time.
Why didn't he have his suit that he had with the scratches in it? He had a different suit on, Maximus.
Well, they actually said that in the episode because he was like, "Oh, let me go get my suit," and Xander's like, "Oh, we got a spare in the helicopter."
Okay, I missed that line. I
borrowed
remember
it.
now.
Good catch though that you noticed that, right? Because that would have been kind of stupid if they didn't put that on his suit. If it was like his suit that he was wearing.
Weird. Okay.
And speaking of good catches, what did you guys catch as something that, maybe caught your eye as the best moment of the episode? What was your top scene, top moment, anything that really stands out to you? Maybe just could have been your favorite.
I'm going to go back to Lucy getting cut off the cross. That was just so intense. That was my favorite top moment.
Was just when the ghoul was having a touching moment with Dogmeat, his only buddy.
It was touching.
It was, yeah.
That was actually a really good pick, Paul. I mean, I might have picked that one otherwise because it kind of goes back to the man and his dog thing, right? And he also said that Dogmeat, right? He was like, "You're not him, bud." And the last one, and now Dogmeat's kind of becoming him. Roosevelt, I think, was the other dog. But for me, I think it was, I have to agree with Sid. Not necessarily specifically the cutting off the cross scene, but that whole transitional scene of the ghoul going into the Legion camp and kind of going back to the reward ceremony and then him cutting her down and then the powder keg and just the whole dialogue. And, when she said, "Thank you," and he's like, "Don't thank me yet." And then, "I did a good thing or a bad thing." Like that whole sequence to me was just cinematically wonderful. It was wonderful storytelling. It kind of clarified some things or opened up some doors for me as far as the way I perceive Cooper. Kind of some character development. Yeah, so that one is my favorite.
And for me, if you hadn't figured it out, I mean, my favorite scene is the ghoul and Victor. Hello. I just love that he comes in and he's like, "Victor, is that you?" And then they have this whole dialogue like a cowboy and a cowboy banter because the picture, and then they like cut to it when he's got the picture of the cowboy and the cigarette in his mouth. And I just love how they laid that out.
Yeah, that's a cool robot, which the season or the show is full of them. I mean, it's just so many cool things there. I think for me, it might be Charlie Whiteknife's speech at the awards ceremony.
That's a good one.
Just because I think like it is setting up the stakes for almost the whole show, really. Is it moral to do something bad in order to do something good? And so I just thought that was just really well written, really well done, acted, and was my favorite moment of the episode.
And it seems like the good is always based on the side that you're aligned with. It may not be good in just a general sense. It's just what's your right. Everybody's right and wrong is different in this.
Well, and the pursuit of survival, right? It's also kind of like the saying that's like history is written by the victors, So one person's good guy is another person's enemy.
Yeah. And so that was all of our top moments for the episode. What about an MVP? So this is someone that you feel just really crushed it, either in their acting or the character. Who was your favorite for this episode?
I'm going to have to go with Kumail Nanjiani. I was really happy to see him in this role. And again, I'm sad it was kind of short lived, but his delivery is just so spot on. It's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, he's a charming dude, and it's obvious that he has that comedic timing, and Maximus was eating it up.
I would say Maximus was my MVP just because, I'm still trying to figure out who he really is. So, I think he has definitely good intentions at times, but I think he's still suspect at times also. So, just trying to figure out, what his real objective is.
He's definitely a complex character. I do like that about him. For me, hands down, the Ghoul. The Ghoul took the cake on this episode. Or just, we were talking about acting and everything. Ghoul, Cooper, Walton Goggins, his performance was absolutely great. He had the best lines, in my opinion. How he can switch between like being a loving husband and then also telling off House and then also being the Ghoul and kind of being a little unpredictable. And then just the way that he came through for Lucy. Even though she, you could make the argument that she didn't deserve it. And again, going back to my favorite scene, that was the kind of what solidified it for me. I'm just like, yeah, the Ghoul's arc in this episode was top tier, in my opinion.
And for me, I think I had to think about it for a minute, but Thaddeus, he kind of showed up this episode. I don't know, his demeanor and just the way he's like taking this like second chance. I mean, one episode he walked all the way with this busted foot and now the foot is okay. And like, he's like taking this opportunity to take lead, set up an example like, hey, I can make some money. I can really do some, change my future here. And gosh, I'm not sick anymore. Or my foot's not busted, but just control it. It's just so funny.
I'm with you too, Travis. I mean, I think Thaddeus was my MVP also, just because of like just pound for pound, like the most laughs.
Yes.
Is the most entertaining. And every time he comes on the screen, I just find myself wildly entertained, especially in that situation. I wasn't expecting him to come back so early, but like how he came back and the situation that he was in and how he's dealing with it. Not to mention, it is something that I think he like kind of redeemed himself towards the end of the episode. So it was just one of those things where I was loving that Johnny Pemberton as Thaddeus was still in the show for me.
Johnny boy. Well, dang. I can't believe it's already coming to a close, you guys. That was so much fun. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode as we cover Season 2, Episode 3 of Fallout. Join us next week as we cover Episode 4. Until next week, I would love to know, just speaking on our more philosophical questions of the episode. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode as we cover Season 2, Episode 3 of Fallout. Join us next week as we cover Episode 4. Until next week, I would love to know, touching on the more philosophical aspect of this episode, would you kill 3 men to save one? And is any person's life worth more than another's? What do you guys think?
Do I get to pick who the 3 people are? Or are they strangers? They're just randoms. Either way, that's a hard one. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know, it's one of those, again, like the trolley dilemma. Do you pull that lever?
How about, is any person's life worth more than another's?
Yes.
I'm gonna say just right out 100% yes. I would kill people to save other people depending on the circumstance, and sometimes that's absolutely necessary. If it were my daughter, my wife, yeah. I mean, like in the sense of self-defense, or if like this person's already evil, you know, like for instance, like, Robert House in that situation, you already know that he's involved in some really bad stuff. Where it becomes a little tricky is if I have to kill 2 innocent people or 3 innocent people to save 1 innocent person's life, or children or something like that. That's where it's like, I can't say, yeah, I would do that, because that's just, kind of defeats the moral purpose of saving somebody in the first place. So I think let's all go down with the ship, maybe.
But I think that's the spirit of the question. I mean, of course, we would all do what we need to protect our families, but it's when you're like having to decide between people you don't know.
Well, you're on a military mission. On this instance, it was a military mission. He's with when you're with your comrades, when you're with your, your squad. The squad comes first. So in that instance, I mean,
in both instances, it was kind of a military mission, like in a sense, right? It was like we were talking about Cooper having to kill Robert, and then we're also talking about, Xander, right? In my opinion, neither one of those guys were very good people. So I think I might feel a little less, hard about having to kill them.
If you've had time to analyze the person.
I would kill the 3 people just to save Cooper. And unfortunately, I do think some people's lives are more valuable, as badly as I want to say. No, I do think otherwise. So
I can understand
any
that.
more to say on that, fellas?
Let us know who they are next episode.
Matt Damon, and Matt Damon.
Literally. Yes. Let us know in the comments what you think, what you think of the episode. Please like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And 5 stars for 5 guys. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap on this week's episode of Cinema So Far.